welcome to another episode of A Breath of Fresh Jacob. That's all I got. Today's question comes from Travis Salim VGM and asks, actually, you know what? I just realized I've never actually said that middle part of your username out loud before. I don't know if I said it right. You have to let me know. Let me know in Twitch chat, because you'll be there. It's fine. All right, anyway. You talk a lot about video game soundtracks that you love on stream. Are there games that stick out in your mind where the soundtracks actually take away from how you enjoy the game? Ooh, that's a good question. And yeah, as I read that, there was a game that popped up in my head, so I'm going to start with that, where a game might not necessarily be bad, but the soundtrack is bad. And the one that clicked in my head was Tales of Vesperia for Xbox 360. I don't know, maybe the game's good. I only played it for a couple hours because I had a major issue with the soundtrack, and I know this is really stupid and really petty, but the soundtrack to me sounded like circus music. When there was serious shit go on, it's like everyone's gathered around a table. Jeremy's been captured and has been put in the prison of the castle. And it's like it completely destroyed any tonal shit that was going on, and it really bothered me to the point where I stopped playing the game. So I feel like that's a good example of a soundtrack taking away from my enjoyment of a game. I have another one that I'm probably gonna get a little bit of shit for, but I don't care. Melatonin. It was a Rhythm Heaven-esque game that came out not that long ago for the Switch. Was it Switch PC? I think it was also on PC. I love the Rhythm Heaven games. They're so much fun. And when everyone was like, oh, this is like Rhythm Heaven, I was like, yes, I want to play it. But all the music is so sleepy sounding. There was 2 exceptions where the music was super, super good. But overall, I did not like the soundtrack because it was so sleepy. I know, haha, melatonin, ha ha ha, dreams. Ha. But I didn't like the music, so it made me not like the game that much. It played fine. It just it didn't do it for me. I'm sorry. This isn't a part of the soundtrack, but part of the sound design. I hate Yoshi's Island because of that crying baby. At least I think it's Yoshi's Island. Probably Yoshi's Island. I don't like Yoshi either, but that crying baby drives me insane. Ugh. So I know that's not soundtrack, that's sound design, but still. Rather than going straight to, what, a good game with a bad soundtrack, right? Another thing that I thought when I read that is where the soundtrack takes away from how you enjoy the game. That makes me think of expectations you have for a game's soundtrack, maybe based on the games that came before it, and it ends up being disappointing. It's not necessarily that the music's bad, it's just disappointing. I'll give you a great example of that. Doom 2. I love Doom 2, okay? I've got the floppies still. I feel like I showed that on an episode recently, that I still have my Doom 2 floppies. If I didn't, see? Doom 2 floppy. Anyway, Doom 2 doesn't have bad music, but compared to Doom 1, Doom 1 soundtrack was so good. And then Doom 2 comes out, and Doom 2, in my opinion, is the better game in pretty much every way. It is a complete improvement on Doom 1, except the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack's not as good. Again, not bad, but not as good. And with the expectations that the first game set, it felt disappointing. I'll tell you another game, or in this case games that did that, was Halo, right? So the music in Halo 1 and 2 and 3, and even Reach, amazing. Halo 4, Halo 5, I couldn't tell you a single song from it. To me, it was super forgettable. To me, that hurts really bad because of how iconic Halo was. Musically. And that's a weird one for me. Now, let's actually flip that on its head, though. What about bad games with great music? Like any Sonic game. Every Sonic game. Look at Sonic 06. Great music. Terrible game. Sonic R. Terrible game. Great music. Pretty much every Sonic game. I'm sorry, I just don't like Sonic. But the Sonic soundtracks are amazing. They're always amazing. They will be always amazing. Castlevania 2. Simon's Quest. That's where we got Bloody Tears from, which is awesome. And that game sucks. I'll tell you a game that I wouldn't say... I feel like this could be its own category. But games that they're okay, but the soundtrack is so good that the game takes a back seat to the soundtrack. When you think back to the game, you don't remember anything about the game, but you remember the soundtrack. La Mulana. La Mulana is an ass-numbingly hard game. It is stupid hard, to the point where sometimes it's frustrating to play. But that soundtrack, oh, it's so good. Love it. Love it. Which, hey, that actually goes back to disappointing ones because I thought La Mulana 2's soundtrack was not nearly as good. But I also thought the game itself wasn't nearly as good either, so that's just me, I guess. I could probably think of some more, but I should probably go. I'm trying to keep these a little shorter. Poor Charles. He's got a lot to juggle, so I'm trying to trim it a little bit. But that was a really good question. I like how we've been having some music questions lately. It's interesting. Makes me think a bit. But that was a good question, Travis. Thank you for your submission. Yeah, that's all I got. So share this video around with your friends. Email it in a chain letter. It says that if you send it to 3 friends, you can... Anyway, bye.